Hey Aakriti, hi, good evening.
Hey, hi, good
Good
evening.
evening,
How are
how are you?
you?
Very well, how are you doing? And thank you so much for joining us.
All good. Thank you so much for inviting.
And good evening to everyone who's on chat and on the call. Unfortunately, I cannot see you all are there, but thank you so much for joining us. If at any point you'll have any questions, please drop in, and at the end, we'll try addressing as many as we can. So, Akriti, let's start by knowing a little bit about you, knowing a little bit about your journey, and then we'll get into the discussion, which is of today's topic of importance of personal branding, and also the belief that LinkedIn is not as a platform for influencer marketing. Let's talk a little bit about that as well, but let's know you. Let's know a little bit about you and your journey.
Sure, absolutely. I think, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. And thank you so much for everyone who's been joining and who has joined already. It's a very interesting topic. I think one of my favorites, a lot of people ask me if LinkedIn is for influencer marketing, and I'm very sure that this session is going to be very insightful. So, talking a little bit about myself, I am Aakriti, and currently I am working at Noise as the marketing manager. And I've done my MBA from IMT Ghaziabad. And after my MBA, I was working with L'Oreal. And I've been quite fortunate to have worked with some great legacy brands like Godrej, Nivea, before I've joined Noise. And I think as a person, I love to paint. I am a very curious person. So, I keep doing a lot of different things. So, you would probably see me doing a lot of things together. So, I write a lot on LinkedIn. That is how I started with LinkedIn, just to improve my writing skills. I paint a lot. I do a lot of social work. So I have my own NGO, which is called Savam Foundation. And yeah, I think that's pretty much about me.
Oh, lovely. I have not been able to draw till date. So painting and anything which is creative is secondary. But actually, one point that you brought up, which was that you started writing on LinkedIn primarily to kind of improve your content as well. I remember I started it because 2 years ago when I founded my company, someone had said to me that start writing on LinkedIn. It's going to help a lot. It's going to build a personal brand. It's going to let people know you better. It's going to build your credibility. You can show your value proposition, show your work. Uh, had I not listened to them back then, maybe today we would not even be having this conversation. But I had reasons for starting my personal brand because I wanted to put a face to my company. How did you start writing, and how important do you think personal branding in itself has been in this journey for you?
Right. So I think I did my MBA in when we were amidst the COVID, right? And so our batch was called the COVID batch. We've spent a considerable amount of time at home. And when you're at home and you're not working, you're actually studying and waiting for a lot of things like classes to happen. You have a lot of time on your plate, right? So I think it was then when there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear amongst all of us, that what is going to happen with us? Are we going to get placed? Are we going to do something with our lives? So that is when I started exploring more things that I could do, to engage myself, to kind of add on to myself as a skill set. And that's when I started writing in general. And I was featured by the Economic Times. And that is when a lot of people started reaching out to me and asking that, Akriti, how do we get our articles published and all of that. So that's when I founded my first startup, which was called Digital Dialogues. It was a content-based platform wherein we used to source articles from people who just wanted to write a couple of articles and not create an entire blog for it. And I think within 3, 4 months, it grew up to like about we sourced about 80, 90 articles in about 3, 4 months. It was going crazy. That is when I realized the importance of content. That is when I realized, how much uh, important it is to have, that writing streak within yourself and how much people value it. So that's when I started writing on LinkedIn just to improve my writing skills as well, because I wanted to grow my startup and I wanted to promote my startup, and I was looking to, looking for channels to, get a similar kind of audience to, kind of come and read. So I remember talking to a couple of people who said we've written articles on LinkedIn and all of that. I think that was just a start, and then I think I just got addicted.
So I remember when I started out, there was no content calendar in place. Whenever I felt like writing, I did.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, one mistake that at least I made as well was not being consistent. So, at times when you don't realize the importance of something, it's just like, okay, let me do it because someone's asked me to do it. So I
Yeah.
know my mistake was not being consistent, at least when I started. Now my father has to tell me, can you write a little less? I mean, you're writing 4 to 5 times a week. But I think, I mean, that's when you have experiences and when there's so much to kind of share. LinkedIn, I think, as content is a perfect platform. So, for everyone who's there, or anyone who wants to start writing as well, or start building their personal profile, what are some of the common mistakes maybe you would have made as well? We're making mistakes till date, everyone does, but what are some mistakes that maybe you learned from and you've seen to it that you never really repeat them again?
Right. I think very rightly said, one is not being consistent. And I'll tell you why we are not consistent as people who write on LinkedIn. It's because we are either shy, you
Mm.
know, we feel that whatever we are writing, it's not worth reading, or people are not going to like it, or is it even worth putting on LinkedIn? I think these are some of the questions that people, and even I have faced when I started out. And second is, I think, peer mocking sessions that we all go through when we write on LinkedIn. A lot of people tell me, how do we escape this? If we start writing, a lot of people are going to come and mock us that, writing. And I still get mocked for, writing
I've,
so much on.
I've had people telling me you're on our feed every time. Whenever we open
Yeah,
it, you're on our feed.
absolutely. There's so many people, my peers, my batchmates, they said whenever we open LinkedIn, Aakriti, is just you. Why do we always keep seeing you and all of that? So I think it's important to move past this phase. As much as we talk about it as a joke, but it does affect you somewhere. You kind of start thinking that, are we doing right? Should we write or should we not write? But
Mm.
I think it's very important to move past this phase and actually write your opinion, because LinkedIn as a platform rarely, rarely wants you to put your opinion and people out there. So I tell this to a lot of people I mentor for LinkedIn, is that there are 130 crore people out there in just India. Obviously, you're connected to a global audience, but if we just talk about India, it's 130 crore people, and all of them, and obviously, there are a lot of lakhs of people who would resonate with your opinion, and they're waiting for you to put it out there because you had the, privilege to have acquired that knowledge. So
You're
why
and
not put it
maybe
out there?
you're saying a lot of things that people want to, and at least as you said, you're not being shy enough to voice the opinion. I think that's something which has really worked well.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think, just one point for everyone who's out here, since, one of the reason why you're on this call is to also understand personal brand building. Uh, I never realized the importance that LinkedIn actually was like an online resume. The kind of photos that I maybe had in the beginning as well that I put up as my profile picture, forget anything else, or the description that I had on my bio was always incomplete. So I think for everyone, one small tip is that look at it as an online resume, because it's not just going to help you uh, in kind of being recruited or anything, but also the opportunities that you can get are absolutely fabulous. So Akriti,
absolutely.
a little bit about your content type. For me today, there's multiple things that I write. At times there's an ad that I'm sharing. At times there's something that happened in office, and I think people can kind of learn from the mistake, or kind of incorporate that in their day to day as well. So how have you used your content? And I used to always shy away from creating videos. That's something which I was, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So, how have you kind of grown in the last, say, 6 months or a year as well in your content? And what is it that you do today which has worked for you, and, which the rest of them can kind of pick up from as well?
Right. I think, when I think 2 years back, when you see there was just one platform majorly, which was Instagram, two platforms actually, Instagram and YouTube. And, I used to always think that these are not the platforms for me because, I'm not a video person, like you said. I cannot, do a lot of video content. And I'm very shy of, kind of coming to the camera and doing, Instagram and YouTube content. But when LinkedIn came in, when it started trending, I thought this is the right platform for me because, I write a lot. I love to voice my opinion. I think this is the right platform for me. So I started experimenting with a lot of different types of content on LinkedIn. So now also, so I'll first talk about my niche. So I write a lot about marketing because I'm a marketing professional. I am very interested in what other brands are doing, what competitors are doing, what, different ad campaigns that I've come across, or if I see, I do a lot of momentary marketing as well, like momentary posts as well. So for example, I see a billboard somewhere and I find it really interesting. I just put it on LinkedIn saying that, guys, this is what I saw and I feel this is very interesting. What do you think about it? And all of that. So recently did that for, I think, Zomato also, it was just an organic post, got great traction. So I do a lot of trending things, very, recent things. I don't bring a lot of things from the past when it comes to marketing. I like to keep it very, very relevant to today's time. I also, so after kind of analyzing my audience, a lot of MBA folks also follow me because of my journey that has been through, like the journey that I've been through in my MBA. So for example, I've been part of a lot of competitions, have been fortunate to have reached podiums for them. So a lot of aspiring MBAs and new MBAs follow me. So I understand, and also undergraduates. So I understand that they want to understand about resumes, interview skills, and career building. So my content is basically a mix of marketing and career advice, and it also goes well with my personality because I take a lot of career sessions, like mentoring sessions, and I also am a marketing professional. So this is how, and I also write about my experiences, like I mentioned.
But I think,
So this
actually,
is,
sorry
yeah,
to cut you. One tip that I'm going to say this to everyone in my office as well. People believe content on LinkedIn needs to be very long. You have to write paragraphs. I think what one point you brought up right now is great. That anything that you see, which you know is going to be valuable to people on the given platform, just post it. You don't
yeah,
have to just write paragraphs and paragraphs explaining things. So I think that's
yeah,
that's something which at least keeps the account going as well. So I think that's a great thing to work around with. And yes,
yeah.
sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just coming to this point wherein I was mentioning that I started experimenting a lot with the forms of content that I was doing. So, for example, I also do a one-liner. At times it works well because it's such a quirky one-liner that just comes to my mind. For example, I was sitting in a hotel in Chennai. I was all alone, and I said I finally gathered the courage to say table for one. So that was just a one-liner that I put out because that is something I was feeling at that point of time. I also do a lot of long posts. I have a newsletter which has about 8,000 subscribers. Uh, I put out one, newsletter every month. That's the frequency I'm operating at because that's the time I have. I don't have much time to, kind of come by monthly or a weekly. I cannot do that, and so I just keep it once. I do a lot of image posts. So, nowadays people are very shy of putting their own pictures. I've started experimenting with that also. I do a lot of written content on posts. So I just keep experimenting with different forms basically, and that is what is I would recommend everyone to do actually,
And
to
I
see
think
what your audience resonates with.
somewhere, LinkedIn in itself right now is kind of making changes. So maybe what worked 6 months ago is not necessarily going to work as content now. Uh,
Absolutely.
I remember I used to do a lot of polls in the beginning because it was very easy. I was like, less content, let me just put polls up. But I think with time, as you said, a lot of image posts have started working now. I think videos are something which is doing great. So Akriti, a lot of them who are going to want to start their personal brand, or even if not start their personal brand, at least start building on their LinkedIn profile so that it can help them in multiple ways. What is your two thoughts for it, or something that you'd like to share as advice that follow this and it doesn't what's worked for us does not necessarily mean it works for everyone, but what's the one advice for them?
So I think a couple of things here. One, it is not important for you to be an expert to be writing on LinkedIn. So that's a very big misconception that, we are a nobody.
Yeah.
I often hear people, why would someone want to listen to my opinion? I think opinions are very subjective. They are very different from person to person. And in psychology, as you say, every brain is different from one another, right? So your opinion necessarily cannot match someone else's exactly. So your opinion is also equally valued as that of a businessman or of an industry expert or of anyone else. It's just an opinion, right? It can be it is not necessarily right or wrong. So one, I would say that don't shy away from writing your opinion. Just start with it. Just start writing, or maybe creating some content that you feel. I'm connected with a lot of people who create their own. And second is creating your niche. So I know a lot of people who write sarcastic content. I know a lot of people who write very energetic content. Some people write very quirky content. Some write very serious content. Some people, just stick to marketing or finance. So just find that some people write about books, just books, right? So find that niche that interests you and keeps you engaged to go in the long term. You don't necessarily have to be someone else or pretend to be someone else on LinkedIn. You can just be absolutely yourself because you're behind the camera. No one's judging you. You just putting out something that you feel is right. And you will obviously attract a lot of comments. Some will be good, some will be bad, but don't let it discourage you. Just keep going. Just be consistent. That's the third point I would say. It has taken me a lot of time to reach. So I think I started with about 1,000 followers 2 years back. It took me 1 year to reach 3,000, and then it took me 1 year to reach 22,000.
Mm.
So, it's a compounding effect. So you grow slow initially, but once you start growing, it's like an exponential growth that you experience. And I
Right.
think last year by June, July, I was just at 8,000. So within 6 months, I've been able to add like about, 14, 15,000 followers to my LinkedIn account just because I was consistent, just because I was posting at least thrice a week. And
Right.
I started creating more relatable content wherein I was getting a lot of attraction.
I think a lot of them kind of get disheartened as well when they don't see, the
Yeah,
interactions and the engagement. And, oh my God, my followers are taking that much longer to kind of increase. But I think that's absolutely right. When I started out, I did start out with about, I think, 1,000 again. That's the same kind of number I did. But there were moments, and I'm like, I'm not getting anything out of this. Why am I writing? Let me just stop. But I think you're right. Over a period of time, and when you see the results, you will not want to go back. So it's just going to
yeah,
be, you're going to kind of increase it then. So Akriti, let's talk a little bit about noise as well now. Let's understand that yeah, you guys have done some fabulous campaigns. You've I think with Tapsi Pannu is where you've recently worked with. You'll have done something with Rishabh Pant. So there's a lot of digital campaigns that you'll have done. And as you said that Instagram used to be one platform everyone believed in terms of influencer marketing. That's where you should be. How and why did you all decide to kind of step into LinkedIn? How and why did you all feel that yes, LinkedIn could be a platform where your audience is sitting, and also where the end goal that every brand has, which is either awareness, sales, is that you would be able to achieve.
right, right. I think, yes, at Noise, we've been creating a lot of content with Virat. Virat is our newest noise maker. I
Mm,
think Tapsi is there, Rishabh Pant is there. So I think all of these people, they've done a fantastic job. It's just how they resonate with the brand that we wanted the world to see.
yeah.
And so there are two things here. One is basic marketing basics that you call that you have to be present 360-degree on each and every platform that is getting traction, right? So LinkedIn happens to be one of that because obviously, right, like you said, the audience is there, right? People have started growing very, very active on LinkedIn nowadays. And second, also because you find a lot of relevant audience here, right?
Mm,
So Instagram and YouTube as a platform, they're great, they're exceptional, but they've also grown crowded. And there is a lot of brand collaborations happening there. There's a lot of content floating there, and the chances of you missing out the right audience is very high,
right.
right? So I think LinkedIn as a platform helps lets you choose the right creator for yourself, right? And at LinkedIn, it's all organic, right? There's no paid promotions, there's no paid followers. It's all organic. So for example, if I happen to choose someone from finance, there is a huge chance that a lot of finance people would be following that person. So that makes my audience very relevant to a finance product. Similarly, when I talk about a marketing campaign that we would want to do with Noise, we would want to target a lot of marketing folks, right?
Mm,
And we know that a lot of marketing enthusiasts would be, kind
following.
of following that person, or maybe if we want to, kind of target an age group of 25 to 30 or 35, this is the kind of person I want to, associate with, and similar audience would just follow.
Correct.
Also, I think LinkedIn gives you a much better ROAS because it's it's cheaper, it gives you a much better reach
Mm.
as compared to the other platforms. And I think that's what a marketer and a company is looking for, the right fit, the right ROI coming in, so I think LinkedIn kind of fits that area.
I think something that we've noticed at our end as well is that, likes and shares is great. But LinkedIn is someone
Absolutely.
who've seen a lot of people kind of interact in the comment section as well. And I think that's where the actual value is added, because questions are being asked, people are putting in their opinion, a lot of users are talking about it as well. So I think that comment section and the interaction is very, very important. And
Absolutely.
one point that you brought up, you all have started exploring multiple platforms now. Uh, I, as an agency, when we reach out to brands or we reach out to other agencies as well, talking about LinkedIn, there's that misconception that it's still a B2B platform, or but we have kind of marketed beauty brands on LinkedIn. It all depends upon the way your content is coming across as well. So, for you, two things for me to understand in noise, and so the rest of them can learn from it. One, what was the kind of flow or strategy that you all have in mind? It's not that what is being done on other platforms can just be repeated over here. So, what was the strategy you all had in mind? How did you all find the correct set of influencers? And also, what misconceptions you had before you started a LinkedIn campaign, and after the campaign and after you saw the end result, what were the ones that you're like, okay, I was
Right.
wrong?
Right. I think one very major difference between LinkedIn and other campaign is the kind of content you're putting, right? So,
Correct.
for example, on LinkedIn, you want the same thing to be hammered to a consumer. Okay. So, for example, I get like about 10 content creators to post for me, right? And I would want them to speak the same thing in their own manner, right? Whereas on Instagram, I would want a varied content because people get bored of the same content on Instagram, right? It's a huge difference.
You know,
Whereas on LinkedIn, if 10 people are talking about the same thing, it registers in the mind of the user. That's what you call virality on LinkedIn. Whereas on Instagram, it's more it's all varied, right? People want newer type of content from each content creator. It cannot be the same that the same 10 people are talking about the same thing, right? So I feel that LinkedIn here, our strategy was to get people who, kind of resonate with the brand, obviously. They have a unique style of writing. They have a unique audience and also an overlapping audience so that we can have a, greater frequency. And I think that was the strategy. The impact was very nice because we also saw growth in our channels like
uh,
Noise, LinkedIn page, founders, LinkedIn pages, right? So even they experience growth because of the kind of influencers that were posting for us.
uh,
So I think it's also about how and when they post, right? You
yeah.
know, what is the kind of content they're putting out? That's also very important.
And I
It
think,
should not be, they're posing with a watch and saying, go have a look. We don't want that. We want people to actually experience the product and actually tell their story. We don't want them to, do a promotional thing for us.
I think the point of story that you brought up, a lot of the campaigns that we do as well, we see to it that it's storytelling involved, because people like to they resonate with someone, and that's when the word of mouth spreads, when you're actually speaking to people rather than just, as you said, holding a watch and standing there.
Yeah.
Uh, what are your tips for me also, when I reach out to other brands and agencies, and when I have to explore the fact that yes, LinkedIn is a platform which you all should explore. And what is something that you feel in the next 6 months or 7 months is going to kind of still make LinkedIn stand out as compared to the other platforms?
Right. I think LinkedIn is evolving every single day, right?
Mm.
It's giving you a chance to, put out various different kinds of content. Okay. So, for example, other platforms would just have video. Here, you have the convenience of either doing a one-liner or probably a paragraph or carousels or newsletter or articles or video, right? There's so much that you can play around, and that keeps an audience interested. I think that's what makes LinkedIn stand out. Also, it gives a lot of chance for intellectual knowledge to pass within individuals. And I think with the Gen Z that's coming in, with the millennials that are there, right? They value intellect more, you know, and I think LinkedIn kind of suffices and satisfies this thirst for knowledge for them, right? So when you put out an informative post, even through a brand, that's what they value in a brand. That brand is actually trying to educate you.
Educated.
It's trying to bring some value to you as a relationship between a brand and a customer. I
Mm.
think that is what is very. I think that's what makes LinkedIn unique. And yeah.
And Aakriti, if you talk about outcome of this campaign, and this is just for everyone else's understanding as well. Uh, Everyone knows LinkedIn is just starting out as an influencer platform in itself. So, why today on Instagram there are multiple other questions that we might have, or requirements that we might have as an outcome of the campaign. At your end, what was it that you were looking at the end of the campaign or expecting out of the LinkedIn influencers?
So I think tangibly, obviously, reach.
Mm,
When you talk about any campaign for any brand, it's always the reach, right? Which is the most tangible outcome we could, kind of associate with the brand, and kind of give a quantitative amount of how many impressions we got, how many likes we got, how many views or
mm,
shares we got. I think that is something that is tangible. But what more intangible thing that I think we got out of LinkedIn, and any brand would be people start talking about you and the campaign, right? So a lot of people would, kind of message me and say that, everyone's talking about noise and stuff like that, right? And I think the team has done a tremendous job there. And it's also a lot of people don't know that certain facts about brands, any brand, absolutely. I think LinkedIn kind of helped us establish that brand, that in noise was number one for the third year, right? And that is what we exactly wanted people to know, that, that's the kind of impact we have globally as well, that we're doing some great work there. So I think that was something intangible that we got out of the campaigns.
lovely. So, Agati, we do not have much time on hand, but I think when we put this video out, if anyone's got questions, they can surely put it over there and we can answer them. I've just got one question that the team shared with me, and it'll be great if you can answer that. Someone's written, I wrote a post which is related to my field, but I am not able to be consistent. My aim is to be visible in my domain. That's a question I think Bhavan's asked. So, what is your tip again for him? Everyone has their ups and downs. We feel at times we're demotivated or disheartened. But what do you do to kind of, be consistent? And is there a way that, maybe what you thought was your domain, and when you start writing and you see your engagement, you understand that your audience actually is reaching out to you for something else and not actually, the initial point that you started writing with. So,
Right.
what's your tip and advice here for Bhavan?
So I think, Bhavin, it's very nice that you've identified that you want to write about your field. It'll help you connect with a lot of like-minded individuals in your field. I would suggest that, keep networking with them, keep exploring, what is happening in your field, and start putting it out there so that like-minded people within your field reach out to you and you start making content together. Again, be consistent. I know it will not, in the beginning, it will definitely not give you results. You will probably get like a couple of likes, but that should not discourage you, because your end motive should not be likes or engagement. Your end motive should be your own personal learning, your own personal enhancement of your knowledge about your own field. And I hope that is the reason why you've started writing and not likes, because the end objective should always be learning, and not tangible things like likes. Because even my likes, they keep fluctuating. There was a point in time, and
I'll
the
tell you,
algos keep changing, right?
there are posts of mine that have been seen by million odd people. And there are
Yeah.
some posts of mine which have a few thousand. So, I mean, you're
No,
absolutely right.
absolutely.
It's just
Because,
a number at the end
yeah,
of the
these platforms, they have very different algos. They keep changing these algos. A month back, every post of mine would hit millions of views and likes, and you and I would get about 2,000 likes on each post. But now, it's just restricted to about couple of hundreds, right? So it's always, even we would feel, and we would obviously, being human, we would also feel that, our engagement has fallen, or we're not getting the right attraction, all of that. But that should not be the end objective for sure. Your end objective should be to put out the right content. Your objective should be your own learning, your own skill enhancement. And I think that would keep you motivated in the long run, and not likes. If you go for likes, you'll surely stop writing by the fifth post for sure.
That's you and maybe and one more thing is that as Akriti also pointed out, there'll be posts which are going to do very well. I think learn from them. I did that as well. I kind of sat down and understood what is working well, what's not working well, kind of increase that. So something I think which is very important as well is analytics. It's not just for brand campaigns or analytics matter. I think for your own
Yeah,
content as well, studying what is working for
absolutely.
you is
That's
very
the
very
learning, right? That's the learning I'm actually talking about. You start becoming more analytical, you start
important.
experimenting, you start trying out different things, and that makes you learn as to what works and what does not work. You learn everything in your field, and whatever you're writing, you start reading more, you start exploring more, and it adds to you as a person. So tomorrow, when you go and sit within like about five people, you have things to talk about, right? So it's adding to you as a person. So your end objective should obviously, and when you're sitting within five people, you would never tell them ki, "Yaar, I got about 100 likes." You would
Mm.
never say that, but you would actually talk about the content that you wrote. So
Yeah.
end objective should always be that.
And I think one more thing on on LinkedIn, I've seen a lot of times when my content goes on an Aakriti, I'm sure you've seen it as well. There are a lot of people that are engaging with each other in our comment section itself.
Yeah,
And I think maybe somewhere where we go wrong is that we do not interact with it as well. So when you're starting out, I remember when I started out, there was a part where I had to actually engage with every comment that came about. One and that works. I mean, to be very honest, that
yeah,
works to kind of increase the reach. So these are small
absolutely.
things which we think, okay, what people are commenting, let them do it, let them interact with each other. I'm not required to do it. So I think that's also something which people should keep in mind.
Absolutely. And I think one very stupid thing I do is I just look at the silver lining for every post that does not do well. So for example, after if I get a personal DM from anyone over LinkedIn that you're doing a fantastic job, that's my silver lining. If I see that my likes are not there, but my comments are there, that's my silver lining. If I see someone who's written one good comment about the post, that's my silver lining. I think that just keeps me going.
I think that's the same with me as well. There have been so many times when maybe a content piece is not done well, but I've had a brand manager reach out to me saying, Neha, we came across your profile, would like to kind of connect. So I think you're
Yeah,
absolutely right. Don't put everything by what you see as numbers over there. There's a lot
yeah,
that is byproduct, which is even more important.
absolutely.
So, Aki, there are still a lot of questions. Once this video goes live, I'm going to put in the questions and tag you. So both of us together can kind of answer this for them.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much. Thank you everyone who joined in as well. Sorry we couldn't answer all the questions, but lovely having you, Akriti. I'm sure a lot are going to be motivated to start writing their content. And I have not posted in 2 days, so I'm losing out on the consistency. I'm going to do that as well tomorrow.
Yeah.
Super. Thank you so much, Akriti.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for having me.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye bye.